Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing 5 hacks for making college affordable. These hacks are mainly pertinent to those students who are studying in the United States and are facing very high tuition costs associated with their studies. And I really hope that some of these tips that I'm about to give you today will help you consider ways in reducing the amount of student loans that you guys are taking out, because the last thing you really want is to be paying off student loans for 15 or more years, as is extremely common among American students. And so if you prepare at a young age, say senior in high school or freshman in college or even a sophomore in college, I think that you can use a lot of these strategies to ensure that your student loan debt is minimized and your overall college experience is completely affordable. And so I really hope this helps. So let's get started with the very first hack, which is reduce housing costs. And if we're discussing reducing housing costs, it is only natural to bring up the resident assistants or community assistants, also known as RAs and CAs. And it is very common among in-state universities and perhaps private universities as well that compensation includes room and board, and in many places a meal plan as well. So if you add up this money, this can actually be many thousands of dollars per year that you're saving simply by being an RA and working about 15 to 20 hours a week. And this can be equivalent to a job that pays about $20 per hour if you just do the math. And so I highly recommend that coming into, especially those who haven't started university yet or have just started as a freshman, I would highly recommend that you get to know your community directors. The community directors, they may have another name, but they're essentially those who are integral to the hiring process of resident assistants. So if you get to know them, and oftentimes they present themselves when you move into your dorm, that will be a critical stepping stone in becoming an RA in the future, because they will already know who you are. And so I highly recommend that you consider becoming a resident assistant, because you get to live on campus, you get to save many thousands of dollars per year, which ultimately means less student loans for you and less student loans to pay off in the future. So it's a fantastic opportunity. It can be a little competitive, which is why I highly recommend that you make the right connections from the very beginning, because you're going to have a competitive advantage over everybody else. So that's the very first tip. The second tip may not be possible for everybody, but if it is, consider living with your parents. So if you go to your local in-state university close by, I would highly recommend that you just live with your parents as long as possible, even if it's like for the first 2 years and maybe for the latter 2 years you live on campus, because the amount of money you get to save adds up tremendously over time. And it may not seem like it in the beginning, but the average student loan debt is on the order of $35,000, and 1 year of room and board is about a third of that. So if you can just spend 1 year or 2 years at home with your parents while you study, you can save a tremendous amount of money in the long run, and your future self will certainly thank you for it, because it's just a pain in the butt to just pay off all of these loans for over a decade. It's not worth that opportunity cost. So if you live on campus, I would highly recommend you just consider living off campus if your parents live nearby, and that will likely be something you will thank yourself for in the future. The next hack is internships and majoring in a lucrative field. So if you're majoring in a lucrative field such as engineering, computer science, business, finance, etc., you can obtain pretty decent paying internships during the summer that pay around $25 per hour or more over the span of 12 weeks. And if this is the case and you're conservative with your spending, you can save up at least $9,000 throughout that time and apply directly to your university costs. There's also the idea of extending your internship, right? There's many internships that just have this strict time period of like 12 weeks, because that's typically the duration of a student summer, right? And so, but however, from my experience, there's plenty of universities that have longer summers than that. There's buffer times before and after students start an internship. And so in total, you may have about 14 to 16 weeks during the summer. And so if you can extend that internship even by 1 week, you can take that added money that you make and apply it to your studies and reduce the cost of your university even further. And I also would recommend that you take humanities courses during your senior year, which implies that you should take all of your core classes your first 3 years and really save everything till the end. And the reason I say that is because you may have the opportunity to extend your internship from 3 months to 6 months from June all the way up to December, let's say. And the reason this can work out is because many universities actually offer a host of humanities courses online, and so you can possibly become a remote full-time student while interning full-time. Now, that may be a very hectic semester. However, it's going to really pay off because you're going to be making some bank throughout those 6 months. And the humanities courses, especially if you're in a more technical field, if you select carefully, you can choose humanities courses that aren't exactly on the same level of difficulty as your senior technical courses, let's say. So that's what I did personally during my senior year. I took some freshman level humanities courses that I needed to complete my degree, and it was relatively straightforward. I was quite busy, but it definitely was worth the time. It was worth the resume boost, and it was worth really just the amount of money that I was making during that time. I would do it 100 times over, so I highly recommend that. I also have a piece of advice regarding just obtaining some internships. It's quite obvious to most people to simply take these career fairs very seriously. Really take the time to optimize your resume, take the time to dress well, and attend career fairs of nearby universities if necessary, even if it means you have to commute an hour or two to attend them, because it is really those who hustle the most that are going to get those opportunities before everyone else who applies to these internships, relatively passively, hoping to get some opportunity and make the excuse that they are trying, because you can always try harder. So for this next bullet point, I would recommend that you work on the side and never overload yourself with courses. So in other words, if you have to have a second job, if you have to have a job and you're going to be working 20 hours a week, do not overload yourself with courses. And the reason I say that is because you need to excel in your undergrad career. You need to get the best grades possible. You need to optimize your academic performance so that you become competitive when you obtain that very first internship opportunity. And so take your time over the 4 years if you're going to have a side job. Take difficult core classes at a community college throughout the summer, right? This was so that you give yourself a bit more space throughout the semester. That's what I would recommend because you need to really excel. And in terms of finding a job, I would start with on-campus jobs. You should have some sort of resources in your university that assist with finding jobs on campus. If not, your university will very likely have a job search portal that is sort of unique to the community in which that university is located in. And so that's a pretty good start. You can just search online, say, your university job search portal. So if you're going to ASU, you can say ASU job search portal. You should get something. That's a pretty decent start. So to summarize this hack, take your time if you're going to be working on the side. Disperse your difficult courses throughout the year. Do not overload yourself for a semester, because if you burn out and you suffer for one academic semester, that can really impact your GPA, and it would highly compromise your competitive advantage once you begin to apply for full-time opportunities in your senior year. For the next hack, I would recommend reducing your time as a university student. So if taking your time and working on the side is not an option for you for whatever reason, you can also consider reducing your time as a university student. So if you're currently in high school, take full advantage of dual enrollment and pass your AP exams. Also, you can consider taking ideally one course or two courses during the summer through a community college, a local community college. It's also true, and it is often the case, that universities have accelerated degree plans. And so I would recommend that you start there, because that will have a well-defined goal or well-defined program for you to follow if graduating in 3 years is a goal. Now, if you do the math here, 1 year at a state university can easily cost you $25,000. And so really 1 year, if you're able to reduce your time as a university student for a whole year, you could potentially be saving many, many thousands of dollars and do yourself a tremendous favor in the future. You could also consider 2 years at a local community college and 2 years at an in-state university. But I would highly recommend that you sort of evaluate those options and also be conscious of the disadvantages of reducing your time as a university student, because that also reduces the time that you have to really network, to get yourself those internship opportunities and become a very competitive applicant. Because, from the perspective of a hiring manager at at, say, a tech company. It makes little difference if you finish in 3 years and if you finish in 4 years. If you are in a pool of applicants and there are students who got their degree in 4 years and have 2 internship opportunities, and then there's you who got your degree in 3 years and you have 1 internship opportunity, it's probably to the advantage of the employer to hire the person who got 2 internship opportunities, let's say, or at least that's what I would imagine. And so I would consider the disadvantages. However, this is a video about how to reduce the cost of university and make it very affordable, and this is one way of doing so. So if it works for you and if you think this is the optimal strategy, certainly consider it, because you will unequivocally be paying much less than if you were to take a whole other year to finish your degree. And so for this very last hack, I would recommend that everybody simply do the arithmetic and consider all of the widespread advice that you hear from the beginning of your university experience. And so this means having a budget. Mint.com is a very first resource that I've used, and it works pretty well. If you eat on campus, for example, perhaps you can consider not even having a car and skipping all the parking fees. You can use a lot of student discounts that are offered to you at the bookstore, for example. Consider groceries over meal plans, for instance, if you really insist upon having a car on campus. Avoid new textbooks, making your own coffee. All of this adds up, and if you use a multitude of different strategies and in efforts to reduce the cost of university, you can save hundreds of dollars a month potentially, which totals out to a significant fraction of the average student debt at the end of 4 years. And so I would highly recommend that everybody take all of this widespread advice seriously, because they really do add up. With that said, I really hope that this video was very informative to every viewer, and if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, like the video, and if you have any other ideas and strategies to reduce the amount of cost of the university experience, particularly among American students or students in the United States, please leave a comment below detailing those strategies for the rest of us, because everyone has their own unique experience, and this is only 5 hacks that I've listed here out of many. So thank you once again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.